Hello everyone, welcome to the O channel. Been a while. Presently I'm in the 2300 Accord V6. In the last video on this car, I got the engine replaced and got the engine started successfully. It's been a while and a lot of things have happened, so let's go right ahead to unpack them. So recently I noticed that upon startup of the vehicle in the mornings, the power steering would be inactive. I mean that the steering would be very difficult to turn. And then I would have to wait for a couple of minutes before the steering gets soft. So it took a while for me to figure out what was going on, but I felt it had something to do with the power steering pump. So let's go right under the hood and I'll explain further. So right now we're under the hood. This car makes use of a hydraulic power steering setup. The pump is right here. We have the power steering fluid reservoir right here. And then we have some hoses and lines connected to the power steering rack down below. The rack connects to the wheels to get them steering in the right direction as desired. So I felt my issue was something to do with the power steering pump. So looking at the setup right here, here's the reservoir. This hose right here is connected to the lower portion of the reservoir and goes right into the pump. That's the supply line to the pump. And then looking on the reservoir, we have another hose. That hose comes from this hose right here that I'm pointing at right now. That hose is directly from the power steering rack. So like I said, few minutes after startup, steering will be difficult to turn, and then after a few seconds, things would come alive. So I felt it had something to do with the power steering pump. But obviously the pump wasn't bad because eventually it worked. It just took a while for it to wake up from its sleep. So upon further investigation, opening the reservoir, I realized that the fluid in there was kind of gummy. That provided a very big clue that it had to do with the fluid. Possibly the fluid wasn't getting to the power steering pump in time, and that was what caused the delay. So I went online. After a couple of searches on Google, I realized that I had been using the wrong power steering fluid. And that explained why so many people usually had issues with their Honda power steering systems. Looking at the top of the power steering fluid reservoir here, the exact specification for the power steering fluid isn't written. What I have written on this is use only Honda genuine power steering fluid, whatever that is. So last year I got the power steering pump replaced, and I asked the retailer the kind of fluid I should use, and I remember him pointing at automatic transmission fluid. Fellas, these Hondas don't use automatic transmission fluid in their power steering systems. There's a dedicated power steering fluid. So I decided to take out the reservoir. It's not really held on by any bolts. Simply pulls up this way, and then once the two hoses are disconnected, the reservoir comes loose. Obviously, you're going to have fluid spilling all over the place. So the way I got around that was to suck out as much fluid as I could from there, and then tilted the reservoir to drain as much of it out. Even with that, I still got some spillage. So when I emptied the reservoir, I noticed that there was a screen in the reservoir around the bottom of the reservoir, and that was there to prevent dirt and other solid particles from getting to the power steering pump. So it was then I realized that the screen was actually clogged, and because the wrong power steering fluid was in the wrong fluid was in the reservoir, it wasn't allowing fluid to get sucked towards the pump. So I tried to clean as much as possible. I made use of paint thinner. That actually worked. And then I got some power steering fluid exactly for Hondas. Let me get you the bottle right now. Here's the bottle of power steering fluid that I have in the system right now. Comparing this to the automatic transmission fluid right here, the power steering fluid is not as viscous or is not as thick as automatic transmission fluid, and definitely flows a lot better. So after flushing out the system and putting the power steering fluid in, I told myself that after having run automatic transmission fluid in the system for a while, I had to be prepared for the power steering pump to go bad. Unfortunately, after a few hours of driving, I now have a whining noise coming from the power steering pump. So definitely the ATF I had in there for a while has caused some wear to the pump, and in the near future I'll have to replace the power steering pump. I think I'd always thought about doing it because this pump is definitely not for this vehicle. It's a lot bigger pump and could impose some significant amount of drag on the engine. So if I'm going to get replaced, I think I'll definitely go back to the power steering pump meant for this vehicle exactly. It's not as big as this one. So that was the lesson, fellas. Ensure you use power steering fluid in your hydraulic power steering systems, especially for Hondas, so that you don't fall into the same situation I'm in right now. So the power steering still works, but like I said, it makes a whining noise. Don't go for the shortcut of tearing the screen right here. It's there for a purpose. Like I said, it's supposed to prevent solid particles from getting to your pump and causing damage. So power steering fluid in power steering fluid systems for Hondas. So learn from my mistake. Don't do the same thing, so that you have a very soft and efficient power steering system in your Honda. So right now, let me start it up so that you can hear the whining sound. So here's how it sounds upon cold startup. The whining noise is not so noticeable right now. I guess once the power steering fluid gets hotter, it will be more audible. But the whine is definitely there. So I'll use it till it becomes unbearable and then have the power steering pump replaced. So that's it for this video. In the next one, I'm going to be talking about an overheating issue that took me a very long time to troubleshoot. As usual, such issues come with very simple solutions and you don't want to miss it. So if you found the video useful, don't forget to give me a like, share the video with others so that you can also learn from it. And if you're yet to subscribe, make sure you hit the subscribe button and also the notification bell so that you get notified whenever I upload a new video. So fellas, till next time, thanks for watching. Have a nice day.